Hello, it is Mike Tutor here. Now, when you are studying Cantonese, you will notice that some textbooks may seem different than the other textbooks. It seems like sometimes the teachings are a bit different. So, why are there such inconsistencies? Well, the thing is, though, even in Cantonese, there are two general styles in that language, and that is the Guangzhou style and the HongKong style. Now, Guangzhou is basically more or less leaning towards the Mandarin language, and the Hong Kong style is, of course, as you could have guessed it, it's the Cantonese that are said in Hong Kong. So in this video, I am going to briefly talk about what are the general differences between the Guangzhou style Cantonese and the Hong Kong style Cantonese. So first, let's talk about pronunciation. Now, pronunciation is pretty much the same for Guangzhou and Hong Kong, meaning that they could understand each other perfectly. Now, however, though, there is a difference between some of the spoken language between the people in Guangzhou and the people in Hong Kong. Nonetheless, that if you are someone from Guangzhou or from Hong Kong, you would actually be able to understand the other person just fine. So learning one style can actually communicate with another person of another style effectively nonetheless. Now, Hong Kong Cantonese overall has more lazy sound, or what we called lan yum. Lan yum. For example, the word nei is actually have an N or a stronger N sound for Guangzhou speaker versus the Hong Kong speakers, where most of the time you would just hear the word lei instead. Now, of course, the lazy tone is more or less prevalent more in the younger generation. So the older generation of Hong Kongers would actually have the pronunciation closer to the Guangzhou pronunciation, which is the more of the N sound or nei. Also, Hong Kong Cantonese sometimes mixes some English between. And that is because that they have a lot of British influence for a very long time. So that is why, in a sense, we have integrated a bunch of English words in between our sentences. So, for example, if we want to say, do we want to go to lunch in Cantonese? In Hong Kong, we would just say, "食唔食 lunch?" Where lunch is actually just a English word lunch, and there are no Chinese words that make up the word lunch. Unlike the word coffee, which is cà phê in Cantonese, where the word cà phê is basically based on the word coffee in English, but it actually formulates into two distinct Chinese words that when you speak it in combination of those two words, it equates to the English sounding name. However, though, with the word lunch, basically we don't have such Chinese words that associate with the sound lunch. So instead, we just write the English word on there. Or in this case, if we want to say, do you want to go to lunch? We would just say, "食唔食 lunch?" Now, in Guangzhou, the word lunch, they don't really use it when they formulate a sentence. So instead, they would use the word fan instead, which they follow similarly to what they say in Mandarin. Now, speaking of the words following Mandarin, yes, there are quite a few vocabulary that you could see in Guangzhou language that is different than the Hong Kong Cantonese. Now, the thing is that a lot of the Guangzhou Cantonese vocab basically follows one to one with the Mandarin language, whereas in the Hong Kong style Cantonese, you will actually have the the different kind of vocab. So, for example, with motorbike, in the Guangdong Cantonese, you would say mo tok che, mo tok che, which is basically a Mandarin vocabulary of what a motorbike is. But in Hong Kong Cantonese, we would say din dan che, din dan che. So there is a difference between this. However, though, we refer both as motorbikes in Cantonese. Now, would someone in Hong Kong understand the word mo tok che? Well, now I would, and a lot of people would, but sometimes some people might not be used to it. However, though, a lot of people would understand both ways. So it is if you know one over the other, and even if you speak it in a different region, it would still be fine. Now, same as air conditioning, but air conditioning, unlike motorbike, it's much more compatible between these two, and both are fine. As I've seen one being used in Hong Kong, actually both being used in Hong Kong, probably quite the same, quite frequent. So I think both of them is fine, but in a sense, in Hong Kong, we are more used to the word lang hei, lang hei. However, though, uh, uh, you know, when I'm hearing people talk or even seeing signs in Hong Kong, you would actually see the other one as well, which is the Guangzhou style, or what is we called Hong Tiu, Hong Tiu. But both of the vocabulary is fine, and unlike motorbike, I think both lang hei and hong tiu is pretty much intertwined. Even though that lang hei is more Hong Kong style, and hong tiu is more Guangzhou style, but I think this is actually the more one of the vocabularies where you would see both being used in both regions. So I believe that both of them is actually good. But nonetheless, even if there is vocabulary differences, if you put it in a sentence, I think 100% of the people, either in Guangzhou or in Hong Kong, would understand the other just fine. I mean, it's not that big of a difference. As I said before, the pronunciation is mostly the same. And even though that there's words differences, like you don't really say stuff in vocabulary, right? You say it in sentences. So if you say stuff in context, people would get it. So it's not like there's that big of a deal. But just so you know, if you see that there is kind of differences in what you learn in terms of vocabulary and textbook, or some of the pronunciation might be different in textbooks, well, there's actually no right or wrong way. It's just because there's a different way in speaking Cantonese. However, though, if you just follow one of the books, given that it's a Guangzhou style book or Hong Kong style book, you'll still learn Cantonese, and you will still learn Cantonese that it will be understood in both regions because there's not much of a difference. And when you say it in context, people in both regions would actually know what you're talking about. So it's actually fine, and don't sweat it when you see some pronunciation might be different, or some vocabulary are different. Just follow a textbook or follow any learning material and stick with it, and you will be fine. Thank you for listening.